The text message glowed on my phone screen like a neon sign in a dive bar window. "Working late again tonight, don't wait up. Love you, E." I stared at those words, sitting in my truck outside the rusty Anchor, and let out a laugh that probably sounded more bitter than amused. Gray Carter, they call me, short for Graham, though lately I've been feeling anything but gray, more like seeing red if I'm being honest. "Love you too, sweetheart," I muttered to the empty cab, then typed back, "No problem. I'm having drinks with Marcia Salinger. She says hi." The response came faster than a guilty conscience. "What? Why are you with Marcia?" I grinned, pocketing the phone. "Because Marcia Salinger is your boss's wife, Elise. And because she's sitting right across from me in this bar, looking about as thrilled as I feel about our respective spouses' extracurricular activities." "She took the bait," I told Marcia, sliding her phone back across the scarred wooden table. "Your husband's Mercedes is parked outside the Riverside Hotel right now, just like you said it would be." Marcia Salinger was nothing like I'd expected. Where Elise was all sharp edges and designer clothes, Marcia had a quiet strength that reminded me of good craftsmanship, solid, reliable, built to last. She worked at First National Bank, had access to information that would make a private investigator weep with joy, and possessed the kind of calm fury that comes from years of being taken for granted. "Brent thinks I'm at book club," she said, swirling her wine. "I suppose in a way I am. We're both learning quite a story. 3 weeks ago, I'd been just another construction contractor trying to keep his small business afloat, while his wife climbed the corporate ladder. Elise worked in HR for Salinger Tech Solutions, always talking about networking events and team-building exercises that seemed to happen an awful lot after business hours. Then Mrs. Callahan, our neighbor who watches everything from behind her lace curtains, mentioned seeing a fancy car in our driveway during the day. "Looked like that silver Mercedes from the commercials," she'd said. "Thought you might be getting some big client." The pieces started falling into place like dominoes in a rigged game. Elise's sudden interest in yoga classes, her new lingerie that never seemed to make it home, the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner. So I did what any self-respecting carpenter would do. I built a trap. "Your wife's been very careful," Marcia continued, pulling out a manila folder, "but not careful enough. Bank records show regular charges to the Riverside Hotel, always on days when Brent claims to be in meetings. Credit card receipts for Victoria's Secret. Expensive dinners for 2. I flipped through the papers, my jaw tightening with each page. "How long have you known?" 6 months, maybe longer." She took a long sip of wine. "I've been gathering evidence for my divorce attorney, but when you called last week, I realized we might be able to help each other." My phone buzzed again. "Elise. Gray, what's going on? Why won't you answer me?" "Because I'm busy learning about your afternoon adventures," I said to the screen, then looked back at Marcia. "So what's the plan?" "Simple. We expose them. Publicly, completely, and in a way that ensures they can't spin it in their favor." Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "I believe you mentioned something about construction sites and creative problem solving." I nodded, my mind already working through the possibilities. After 15 years in construction, you learn that the best structures are built on solid foundations. And the best demolitions? They start from the inside. "My foreman Luis has a talent for documentation," I said. "And I've got access to equipment that could make this very interesting." "Good, because tomorrow is their monthly strategy meeting." Marcia's air quotes dripped with sarcasm. "Same hotel, same time, same room. I've already confirmed the reservation." My phone rang. Elise's photo filled the screen. Her perfect smile, her carefully styled hair, her lying eyes. "Hey, beautiful," I answered, watching Marcia raise an eyebrow at my cheerful tone. "Gray, what are you doing with Marcia Salinger? You're scaring me." Just having a friendly drink. Turns out we have a lot in common. Similar interests, you might say. What kind of interests? Photography, documentation, truth-telling. I paused, letting that sink in. You know, the kind of hobbies that married people should probably share with their spouses. The silence on the other end stretched like a taut wire. I don't know what you think you know. I know you're not at the office, Elise. I know Brent's Mercedes is parked outside the Riverside Hotel. And I know that Marcia and I are about to become very good friends. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The line went quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, we need to talk. We sure do, but not tonight. Tonight I'm busy planning. I ended the call and looked at Marcia. Think she'll panic? Oh, she'll panic. The question is whether she'll run to Brent or try to get ahead of this herself. Either way, we'll be ready. I raised my beer in a mock toast to truth, justice, and the American way of making cheaters pay. Marcia clinked her wine glass against my bottle, to giving them exactly what they deserve. As we finished our drinks and finalized our plans, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Control. For too long, I'd been the clueless husband, the guy everyone pitied behind his back. But that version of Gray Carter was about to become extinct. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. The next morning, Elise was gone before I woke up. Her coffee cup sat in the sink, lipstick stain on the rim like evidence at a crime scene. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. We'll talk tonight. Don't do anything stupid. E. Don't do anything stupid. Rich advice from a woman who'd been doing stupid things for months. I called Luis, my foreman, and told him to meet me at the Riverside Hotel with his camera equipment. Luis Mendez had worked construction for 20 years, but his real passion was photography. He documented every job site we worked, every before and after transformation. Today, he'd be documenting a different kind of transformation. Boss, you sure about this? Luis asked as we sat in his van across from the hotel. This could get messy. It's already messy, Luis. I'm just cleaning it up. At 2:47 p.m., Brent's silver Mercedes pulled into the hotel parking lot. He stepped out wearing his usual uniform, expensive suit, designer sunglasses, the kind of confident swagger that comes from never facing real consequences. There's our boy, I muttered, watching him stride toward the hotel entrance. At 2:52 p.m., Elise's red Honda followed. She parked 3 spaces away from Brent's car, not together, but close enough. Even in adultery, she was organized. Rolling, Luis said, adjusting his telephoto lens. I watched my wife of 8 years walk into that hotel, her heels clicking on the pavement with purpose. She wore the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. The irony wasn't lost on me. Got everything we need, Luis announced after they'd disappeared inside. Good. Phase 2 starts now. I pulled out my phone and dialed Tori, Elise's best friend since college. Tori was the kind of woman who lived for drama, who collected secrets like some people collected stamps. She also had a social media following that would make a reality TV star jealous. Gray? This is unexpected. Tori's voice carried that fake sweetness she used when she was fishing for gossip. Hey, Tori, listen, I need a favor. Elise has been acting strange lately and I'm worried about her. Could you meet me for coffee? Maybe you could help me figure out what's going on. The silence that followed told me everything. Tori knew. Of course she knew. I'm not sure that's a good idea, Gray. Please, I'm really concerned. She's been working so much overtime, coming home late, and I just want to make sure she's okay. You're her best friend. If anyone would know if something was wrong. Where do you want to meet? Hook, line, and sinker. An hour later, I sat across from Tori at Cafe Luna, watching her fidget with her phone like it contained state secrets, which, in a way, it did. "So what's got you worried?" she asked, not quite meeting my eyes. "The usual stuff. Long hours, distant behavior, new clothes I've never seen before." I leaned forward, playing the concerned husband perfectly. "Has she said anything to you? About work stress, maybe? Or problems at home?" Tori's face went through more expressions than a soap opera actress. Guilt, panic, calculation, and finally, resignation. "Gray, I think you should talk to Elise directly about this. I've tried. She just says everything's fine, but—" I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo Luis had taken an hour earlier. Elise and Brent entering the hotel together. "This doesn't look fine to me." Tori's face went pale. "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter? The question is, how long have you known?" She stared at the photo like it might burst into flames. "Gray, How long, Tori?" 3 months. Maybe 4. The words tumbled out in a rush. "She made me promise not to tell you. She said it wasn't serious, that she was going to end it." "End it? When?" "She keeps saying soon, after the promotion comes through, after things settle down. There's always some excuse." I sat back, processing this. 4 months. While I'd been working 12-hour days to keep our business afloat, Elise had been playing house with her boss. "There's something else," Tori said quietly. "She's been talking about leaving, about starting fresh somewhere new." "With him?" "She won't say. But Gray, she's been asking me about lawyers. Good divorce lawyers." The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. "She's planning to divorce me?" "I don't know for sure. But she's been very interested in asset protection lately. How to hide money, how to make sure she gets what she deserves in a settlement." "What she deserves," I repeated slowly. "And what exactly does she think she deserves?" Tori looked miserable. "Half of everything. Maybe more if she can prove you were difficult." "Difficult how?" "She's been documenting things, taking pictures of the house when it's messy, recording conversations when you argue, building a case that you're not a good husband." I felt something cold settle in my chest. While I'd been oblivious, Elise had been planning a war, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated her enemy. "Tori, I need you to do something for me." "Gray, I can't betray Elise. She's my best friend." "I'm not asking you to betray her. I'm asking you to save her from making the biggest mistake of her life." I leaned across the table, lowering my voice. "She thinks she's being clever. But Brent's wife knows everything. Bank records, credit card statements, hotel reservations. Marcia has it all. If this comes out the wrong way, Elise won't just lose her marriage. She'll lose her job, her reputation, everything." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying there's a way to handle this quietly, privately, without destroying everyone involved. But I need your help." Tori stared at me for a long moment. "What do you want me to do?" "Keep being her friend, but when she tells you things, plans, schemes, whatever she's plotting, I need to know. Not to hurt her, but to protect both of us from this getting uglier than it has to be." "You want me to spy on her? I want you to help me save my marriage. And if that's not possible, I want to make sure nobody gets destroyed in the process." It was a lie, of course. I had no intention of saving my marriage. But Tori didn't need to know that. Not yet. She nodded slowly. "Okay. But Gray, if you hurt her—" "I won't hurt her, Tori, I promise." That was true. I wouldn't hurt her, but I was absolutely going to ruin her. After Tori left, I sat in the cafe for another hour, planning my next moves. By the time I walked out, I had a strategy that would have made Sun Tzu proud. Elise wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that some games have consequences she never saw coming. Elise was already home when I walked through the front door at 6:30, sitting at our kitchen table with a glass of wine and an expression I'd never seen before, equal parts defiant and terrified. "We need to talk," she said without preamble. Yes, we do. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat across from her, studying her face. She'd reapplied her makeup since this afternoon, but I could still see the telltale signs of guilt around her eyes. I know you met with Marcia Salinger yesterday. I know you had coffee with Tori today. What exactly are you trying to accomplish? I'm trying to understand why my wife has been lying to me for months. She flinched, but recovered quickly. I haven't been lying. Really? So you were at the office today, working late on that big project you mentioned? Yes. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo Luis had taken. This is you at 2:52 p.m. walking into the Riverside Hotel. Unless your office relocated, I'd say you were lying. For a moment, her mask slipped completely. I saw panic, calculation, and something else, anger that she'd been caught. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, Elise. You're having an affair with Brent Salinger. You have been for months. The only question is what you plan to do about it. She stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. You don't understand. It's complicated. Complicated how? You're married to me, but you're sleeping with him. Seems pretty straightforward. Our marriage has been over for years, Gray. We both know it. We're just going through the motions. Our marriage was fine until you decided to start going through motions with someone else. She spun around, and for the first time I saw the real Elise, not the careful corporate climber, but the selfish, entitled woman she'd become. Fine? You call this fine? You work all day, come home covered in sawdust, and spend your evenings watching sports or tinkering in your workshop. When's the last time we went anywhere nice? When's the last time you bought me something that didn't come from the hardware store? When's the last time you acted like you wanted to be here? I want more than this, Gray. More than a small-town life with a small-town husband who's perfectly content to stay small. Her words hit like a slap, but I kept my voice level. And Brent offers you more? He offers me possibilities. A chance to be someone important, to matter. You matter to me. Do I? Really? Or am I just convenient? The wife who keeps house and pays bills while you play with your tools? I stood up slowly, meeting her eyes. You're right about one thing, Elise. Our marriage is over. But not for the reasons you think. What do you mean? I mean, I could have forgiven the affair. People make mistakes. Marriages hit rough patches. Sometimes things can be fixed. I paused, letting her hope for just a moment. But I can't forgive the planning. What planning? The lawyers you've been researching. The evidence you've been collecting to use against me in divorce proceedings. The way you've been systematically preparing to destroy me while pretending everything was normal. Her face went white. Tori told you. Tori's worried about you. She thinks you're making a mistake that's going to ruin your life. She had every right to try to save her friend from doing something stupid. Too bad you're too far gone to listen. Elise sank back into her chair, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married, vulnerable, uncertain, human. What do you want, Gray? I want honesty. Real honesty, not the corporate doublespeak you've been feeding me. She took a shaky sip of wine. Fine. Yes, I'm having an affair with Brent. Yes, I've been planning to leave you. And yes, I've been protecting myself legally because I know you'll try to take everything in the divorce. Take everything? Elise, I built this business from nothing. This house, these savings, everything we have came from my work. Our work. I supported you, encouraged you, helped you network. You helped me network? When? Between yoga classes and team-building exercises? She stood again, anger flaring. You have no idea what I've sacrificed for this marriage. The opportunities I've passed up, the life I could have had. The life you're planning to have with Brent? Maybe, if he leaves Marcia. And if he doesn't? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across her face. He will. He's just waiting for the right time. The right time for what? To leave his wife of 15 years? To give up half his assets? To risk his business reputation? He loves me. He loves sleeping with you. There's a difference. You don't know him like I do. I know him well enough. I know he's been cheating on his wife for years. Marcia has bank records going back to before you started working there. I know he's got a pattern of hiring attractive women and making them think they're special. And I know he's never actually left his wife for any of them. Elise stared at me like I'd struck her. You're lying. Ask Marcia. Better yet, ask Jennifer Walsh, the marketing coordinator who quit 6 months before you were hired. Or ask Rebecca Chen, the consultant who left right before Jennifer. How do you know about them? Because Marcia knows about them. Because she's been documenting her husband's affairs for years, waiting for the right moment to use the information. I watched the truth sink in, watched Elise's carefully constructed fantasy crumble in real time. She's lying. She's trying to break us up because she's jealous. She's trying to break you up because she's planning to divorce Brent and take him for everything he's worth, and your affair is just another piece of evidence in her case. Elise sat down heavily, her wine glass forgotten. This can't be happening. It's happening, Elise. The question is what you're going to do about it. What do you mean? I mean you have a choice. We can handle this quietly, privately, like adults, or we can let it play out publicly, with lawyers and depositions and everyone in town knowing exactly what kind of person you really are. She looked up at me, hope and fear warring in her eyes. What are you proposing? A clean divorce. No fault, no drama, no fighting over assets. You take what you brought into the marriage, I keep what I built. We both walk away with our dignity intact. And if I don't agree? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Then you get to explain to your boss why his wife has photos of you two together. You get to explain to HR why you're sleeping with your supervisor. You get to explain to our friends and neighbors why you threw away 8 years of marriage for a man who was never going to leave his wife. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other across the kitchen table, and I saw the exact moment she realized I wasn't the pushover she'd married. I wasn't the small-town husband who would quietly accept whatever scraps she threw him. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow night. After that, I start making phone calls. She stood up on shaky legs. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, but I'd suggest somewhere other than the Riverside Hotel. Marcia's having it watched. Elise grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. I did love you, Gray. Once. I know. That's what makes this so much worse. After she left, I sat in the quiet kitchen, drinking my beer and thinking about the woman I'd married versus the woman who'd just walked out my door. They were two completely different people, and I wasn't sure when the switch had happened. But it didn't matter now. The game was in motion, and there was no going back. Tomorrow, things would get interesting. I woke up the next morning to find Elise's side of the bed empty and cold. Her car wasn't in the driveway, and there was no note on the kitchen counter. For a moment I wondered if she'd run, packed up and left town rather than face the consequences of her choices. Then my phone rang. Gray, it's Marcia. We have a problem. I grabbed my coffee and stepped onto the back porch. What kind of problem? Brent came home last night in a panic. He knows we talked, and he's trying to get ahead of this. He's planning to fire Elise today and claim she was harassing him. Can he do that? He's the boss. He can do whatever he wants. But it gets worse. He's also planning to tell people that you've been threatening him, that you're unstable and dangerous. I felt a cold anger settle in my gut. Is he now? Gray, you need to be careful. Brent has connections, money, influence. If he decides to destroy you, he can make your life very difficult. Let him try. I'm serious. He's already called the police, filed a report claiming you've been harassing him and his family. What kind of report? Stalking, intimidation, threatening behavior. Detective Sims called me this morning asking questions about your mental state. Detective Sims had been a year behind me in high school. We weren't friends, but we weren't enemies either. He was a fair man, thorough, but not vindictive. What did you tell him? The truth. That you've been nothing but professional and courteous. That you're the victim here, not the perpetrator. But Gray, Brent's painting a picture of an unhinged husband who can't accept that his marriage is over. And Elise? Where does she fit into his story? She's the innocent victim, caught between an abusive husband and an obsessed stalker who won't leave her alone. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. They've got it all figured out, don't they? They think they do, but they made one mistake. What's that? They assumed I'd stay quiet to protect my own reputation. They don't know I've been planning this for years. What do you mean? I mean, I have evidence of every affair Brent's had since we got married. Bank records, hotel receipts, credit card statements, photographs, even audio recordings. I've been building a case that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. Audio recordings? Brent likes to brag when he's been drinking. He's told me details about his affairs that would curl your hair. Names, dates, places, techniques. He thinks it makes him sound sophisticated. And you recorded it? Every word. Along with his opinions about his employees, his business practices, his tax evasion strategies. Brent has a very loose tongue when he thinks he's among friends. I grinned, feeling the balance of power shift back in our favor. What do you need from me? Meet me at the bank in an hour. I want to show you something that's going to change everything. An hour later, I sat in Marcia's office at First National Bank, staring at a computer screen that displayed more financial information than I'd ever seen in one place. This is Brent's personal account, Marcia explained, pointing to a series of transactions. Notice the pattern. Large cash withdrawals every month, always on the same day. What's he buying with cash? Not buying, hiding. He's been siphoning money from the business and stashing it in offshore accounts. The cash withdrawals are to avoid electronic trails. That's illegal, isn't it? Extremely. Tax evasion, embezzlement, fraud. The IRS would have a field day with this information. She clicked to another screen. This is even better. He's been claiming business expenses for personal purchases. Hotel rooms, restaurant bills, jewelry, even a weekend trip to Vegas with one of his girlfriends, all written off as company expenses. How much are we talking about? Over the past 3 years? Probably close to $200,000 in fraudulent deductions and hidden income. I whistled low. That's serious prison time. 5 to 10 years minimum, plus penalties, interest, and asset forfeiture. She leaned back in her chair. Brent thinks he's untouchable because he's successful and well-connected. He's about to learn that the government doesn't care how many country club memberships you have. What about Elise? Is she involved in any of this? Marcia pulled up another screen. Not directly, but she has been the beneficiary of some interesting purchases. This necklace, for instance, $1,500, charged to the company as client entertainment. She's wearing stolen jewelry. Technically, yes. She's also been staying in hotel rooms paid for with embezzled money, eating meals bought with fraudulent expense accounts, and receiving gifts purchased with funds that should have been reported to the IRS. Could she be charged as an accessory? If the prosecutor wanted to be aggressive, absolutely. Receiving stolen property, conspiracy, aiding and abetting, there are options. I stared at the screen, processing the implications. So, what's your plan? Simple. I'm going to give all of this information to the authorities and let them handle it. Brent can try to paint you as an unstable stalker all he wants. It's hard to be taken seriously when you're wearing handcuffs. When? Today. I've already contacted the IRS and the district attorney's office. They're very interested in what I have to show them. My phone buzzed with a text message. Elise. We need to talk. Can you meet me at the cafe at noon? I showed the message to Marcia. Think she knows what's coming? I doubt it. Brent's probably told her that everything's under control, that he's handling the situation. She has no idea how deep this goes. Should I meet with her? Absolutely. But be careful what you say. If she's charged as an accessory, Anything you tell her could be used as evidence. What should I tell her? Marcia smiled, and it was sharp as a blade. Tell her the truth. Tell her that her boyfriend is about to be arrested, her job is about to disappear, and her dreams of a new life are about to become a nightmare. And if she doesn't believe me, then she'll find out soon enough. I looked at the financial records one more time, memorizing the numbers and dates. In a few hours, Brent Salinger would go from successful businessman to federal defendant, and Elise would learn that the man she'd thrown away her marriage for was nothing but a well-dressed criminal. Marcia, can I ask you something? Of course. Why didn't you do this years ago? Why wait until now? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her computer screen. Because I kept hoping he'd change. I kept thinking that maybe if I was a better wife, a more understanding partner, he'd stop cheating and start appreciating what he had. And now? Now I realize that some people can't be saved from themselves. Brent is going to keep cheating, keep stealing, keep lying until someone forces him to stop. I'm just making sure that someone is me. I nodded, understanding completely. I'll see you after my meeting with Elise. Gray? Whatever she says, whatever promises she makes, remember, she made her choice months ago. Don't let her convince you to make the same mistake I did. What mistake is that? Believing that love is enough to change someone who doesn't want to be changed. As I walked out of the bank, I thought about Marcia's words. She was right, of course. Elise had made her choice, and now she'd have to live with the consequences. But first, she'd have to face the truth about the man she'd chosen over me. The cafe was crowded with the lunch rush when I arrived, but I spotted Elise immediately. She sat in a corner booth, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wore jeans and a sweater instead of her typical business attire. "Thank you for coming," she said, as I slid into the seat across from her. "You look tired." "I didn't sleep much last night." She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup like it was an anchor. "I've been thinking about what you said." "And?" "You're right. About everything. I've been selfish, dishonest, cruel. I threw away 8 years of marriage for a fantasy that was never going to become reality." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or calculation, but saw only exhaustion and regret. "Where did you stay last night?" "Tori's couch. She spent 3 hours telling me what an idiot I've been." Elise managed a weak smile. "She's a good friend. Better than I deserved. She's worried about you." "She should be. I've made a mess of everything, haven't I?" "Pretty much." We sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the cafe washing over us like white noise. "Gray, is there any chance, any possibility at all, that we could work this out? That we could try again?" I'd been expecting this question, had rehearsed my answer, but looking at her now, broken and vulnerable and genuinely remorseful, I felt a flicker of the love I'd once had for her. "I don't know, Elise. Too much has happened. Too many lies, too much planning to hurt me. Trust isn't something you can just rebuild overnight." "I know. But maybe we could try. Maybe we could go to counseling, take it slow, see if there's anything left worth saving." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcia. "It's happening. Turn on the news." I pulled up a local news app and saw the headline, "Local tech executive arrested on federal charges." Elise noticed my expression. "What is it?" I turned the phone so she could see the screen. Her face went white as she read the article. Brent Salinger, CEO of Salinger Tech Solutions, was arrested this morning on charges of tax evasion, embezzlement, and fraud. Federal agents raided his office and home, seizing computers, financial records, and other evidence. Salinger is accused of stealing more than $200,000 from his company and hiding income from the IRS. "This can't be real," Elise whispered. "It gets worse." I scrolled down to show her more details. The investigation was initiated by his wife, Marcia Salinger, who provided federal authorities with extensive documentation of her husband's criminal activities. Elise stared at the phone like it contained a bomb. Marcia did this? She's been planning it for years. Every affair, every illegal transaction, every lie, she documented all of it. But why now? Why today? Because Brent made a mistake. He tried to frame me as an unstable stalker, tried to paint himself as the victim. Marcia decided it was time to show the world who he really is. Elise's hands were shaking as she set down her coffee cup. What does this mean for me? That depends. How involved were you in his business activities? I wasn't involved at all. I work in HR, not finance. But you accepted gifts from him. Jewelry, hotel rooms, dinners, all paid for with stolen money. I didn't know it was stolen. The prosecutor might see it differently. Receiving stolen property is a serious charge, even if you claim ignorance. She buried her face in her hands. This is a nightmare. How did everything go so wrong? You made choices, Elise. Bad choices with predictable consequences. What am I going to do? My job, my reputation, my future. Everything's ruined. I felt a moment of sympathy for her, remembering the woman I'd married, the dreams we'd shared. But then I remembered the lawyers she'd researched, the evidence she'd collected against me, the systematic way she'd planned to destroy me. You'll figure it out. You're smart, capable, resourceful. You'll land on your feet. Will I? Who's going to hire me after this? Who's going to trust me? People who believe in second chances. People who understand that everyone makes mistakes. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Do you believe in second chances, Gray? The question hung in the air between us, loaded with 8 years of history and months of betrayal. I thought about the woman she'd been when we met, ambitious but kind, driven but loyal. I thought about the woman she'd become, selfish, manipulative, willing to destroy me to get what she wanted. I believe people can change, I said carefully, but only if they want to. Only if they're willing to do the hard work of becoming better than they were. I want to change. I want to be better. Then prove it, not to me, but to yourself. Figure out who you really are, what you really want, what kind of person you want to be, and then do the work to become that person. And us? Is there any chance for us? I looked at my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, and felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. The anger was gone, the hurt was fading, and what remained was just sadness for what we'd lost and relief that it was finally over. No, Elise, there's no chance for us. Too much has been broken. Too much trust has been destroyed. We're done. She nodded, tears flowing freely now. I'm sorry, Gray. For everything. For the lying, the cheating, the planning to hurt you. You deserved better. Yes, I did. But you know what? I'm going to be fine. Better than fine, actually. For the first time in months, I know exactly where I stand and what I want to do next. What's that? Build something new. Something honest and real and mine. I stood up, leaving money on the table for my untouched coffee. Take care of yourself, Elise. And next time, if there is a next time, remember that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes it's just different grass with different problems. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt lighter than I had in years. The game was over, the lies were exposed, and the truth had finally won. Behind me, I could hear Elise crying softly, mourning the life she'd thrown away for a fantasy that had just crumbled into dust. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I had my own life to rebuild, my own future to create. And for the first time in a very long time, I was looking forward to tomorrow. 6 months later, I stood in the morning sun outside my new office, a small building I'd bought and renovated myself, with Carter Construction built to last, painted in gold letters on the window. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago. Clean, simple, no fault, just like I'd promised. Elise kept her car and personal belongings. I kept the house, the business, and my self-respect. She'd moved to Portland, found a job with a nonprofit organization, started over with a clean slate. We didn't talk, but Tori kept me updated. Elise was doing well, apparently. Learning to live with herself, working to become someone better. Brent was in federal prison, serving a 7-year sentence. His company had collapsed, his assets had been seized, and his reputation was destroyed beyond repair. Marcia had gotten everything she wanted in the divorce, and then some. "Morning, boss," Luis called out as he pulled into the parking lot. "Ready for another day of honest work?" "Always," I replied, grinning at my foreman and friend. As we walked into the office together, I thought about the past year, the lies, the betrayal, the pain, and finally, the truth. It had been the worst year of my life in many ways, but also the most important. I'd learned that I was stronger than I thought, smarter than I'd given myself credit for, and capable of more than I'd ever imagined. Most importantly, I'd learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is let them go, even if they don't want to be let go. Especially then. The phone rang, and Luis answered it with his usual enthusiasm. "Carter Construction, we build it right the first time." I smiled and got back to work, building something new on the solid foundation of truth. It was going to be a good day.